In this episode of Everyday Heroes, Lucas shares his remarkable journey from a childhood marked by the sudden loss of his father, bullying, and financial hardship, to building a thriving real estate business and envisioning a future dedicated to transforming young lives. Lucas opens up about resilience, the power of environment, and the pivotal moment that turned his struggling business into a record-breaking success. Now, his passion lies in creating a school that teaches life skills, financial literacy, health, and leadership, empowering kids from disadvantaged backgrounds to break cycles and build futures. This is a story of grit, growth, and giving back.
Lucas, welcome to Everyday Heroes Kofkin podcast. It's a real pleasure having you here.
I'm so excited and honoured to be part of the podcast, to be honest.
Well, I do have to tell a quick story. I mean, we've met through a couple of known businesses, a cup, and when I did chat with you and said, I'd love to have you as a podcast guest, and you are a bit of an introvert and a little bit shy, and you just looked at me with this stare of and I could read in your eyes, it was like you're saying, no.
That was probably my first thought.
Yeah, but you know, that's the good no. You no is not an answer that I accept. When I want something, I can be a little bit persistent. So
I figured that.
Yeah, and you're here, so welcome. Yeah. You're here again, but this time we're recording. Yeah. So welcome, my friend.
Thank you.
No, it's an absolute pleasure having you here. And I've asked you here particularly because you do actually have a story, and I've mentioned this numerous times. Everybody does have a story. People will look at somebody and judge them on the clothes they wear or the job they have or who they are, but they don't actually know necessarily the true story. So let's start on, actually, I'd like to, if we can, let's start of 5-year-old Lucas. A life-changing event happened, which really changed you and your entire family's life when you were 5 years old. So could you, if it's okay, could you just share that story?
Yeah, it was a life-changing moment. So my father at the time was only 37 years old. Typical male wouldn't go to the doctor for any soreness, sickness, illness, whatever it may be. It ended up getting really bad. Found out very, very late on that he had cancer. And then basically died possibly only 6 months after finding out. And that really, I guess, put our whole family into a tailspin. So
and you had a younger sibling as well.
So a younger brother who actually had a lot of health issues as well, and he's had a lot of challenges health-wise growing up. 2 years younger than me, and only a day apart on our birthday, so 1st of July, 2nd of July.
Okay.
And then my mother, who was very young at the time, who just, I could only imagine, to be honest, her world was turned upside down. So she was not business orientated. Her profession was a teacher. And when my father died, he was quite a risk taker, and I guess you could say quite entrepreneurial. So he used to run a business called NPA Shopping Jeeps, which used to provide the vinyl shopping trolleys that you would see a lot of old ladies push around the markets or the supermarket and store all their, whatever they're buying for the day in the shopping. Some have used that to steal things too. So
okay.
It's quite good for that purpose too, I've been told.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, this was all
entrepreneurial, some of those older ladies, weren't they?
Yeah, so this was all pre sort of manufacturing from China and imports. So our business was actually quite profitable, and we also sold downgrade tube. So there's like full fencing, like trailers, all different things that you would use seconds tube for and steel.
Yeah.
So my mum hadn't actually set foot in that business when my father died. We had a lot of debt, and in 1992 it was fixed at roughly 18% interest.
Yeah.
So my mum had to deal with the loss of her husband, look after 2 kids that were probably, I think I was a little bit more crazy than my brother, so It probably wasn't easy.
Yeah.
And yeah, she just basically was in this world where she didn't know if she was going to keep, I guess a roof over her heads day in, day out, and
Yeah.
that really shaped her. So she was completely anti-risk, whereas I was like 10x more risk taking than my father, and I just wanted to take
Even
risk.
as a young child.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So I like the thrill of things, I guess.
But how? I mean, I see the quiet Lucas who I bring into conversations, and then you observe people and you watch people, and then you come into it. You know, when you're comfortable with people. How was the young Lucas at school? What were you like at, say, primary school?
So primary school,
Especially having lost your male role model, your father, at
no.
that stage. So how were you at primary school?
So I think primary school, I was still like I was aware that I lost my father, but I don't think I really understood what was happening because I have a few memories of my father, but when you don't know, you don't know. So growing up without a father, I almost didn't know the difference because I was so young. But as I sort of got older, as I got into like year 6 onwards, I would say I was sort of overweight as a kid as well, and I I didn't enjoy school, basically put it that way. So I was bullied for a number of years, and my relationship with my mother, being Dutch, she's not typically the person that will be super open with verbalizing things. So I guess she,
Quite direct.
yeah, direct, and found it very hard to verbalize, love. Like, I love
Okay.
you,
Yeah.
I'm proud of you. So from that aspect, I felt to some degree quite alone.
Okay.
But I have a great admiration and love for my mum, and I should be, and I know she was always proud of me and she loved me, but she could just never verbalize it to me. She would verbalize it only to everyone else but me. So, we've worked on that, and we're so close. So,
You're about to take her on holidays to Italy.
that's exactly right. Well,
Is it her birthday?
no, we actually went to Italy 2 years ago together.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And we're actually going to
New York.
Yes. So we're going to New York next month, and for a 70th birthday. And I'm really looking forward to that. So I think it's going to be some more great memories, good times.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. So growing up, you grew up in Mornington, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're at Mornington. You're growing up. Struggled a bit in primary school, obviously, from that perspective. You're a big introversion.
Yeah.
What was secondary school like for you?
So secondary school, I'd say, was worse.
Okay.
So I actually ended up getting a scholarship or part scholarship to Haileybury in Peterborough.
Yeah.
Ended up going there, and I think from getting on with other kids and being bullied and things like that was actually the peak of.
It got worse there, did it?
Yeah, it actually got worse, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Though I will say that the experiences that I got, the competitiveness with sport and those other outlets were really, really good for me.
Yeah.
But I think that.
What were your sports?
So I did rowing.
Yeah. Okay.
I was in the first 8 for rowing.
Yeah.
And we actually the best we've ever done in Haileybury. Not that we've ever done very well in rowing, but we came third.
You didn't have to tell that last part of the story.
So we ended up coming third in the A final, which was actually a big thing for Haileybury because we're not a rowing school. Played football, basketball.
Okay. Was it a sporting school or academic or a bit of everything?
It was a bit of everything.
Yeah.
Part academic, part sporting.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I was the greatest sportsman, but
it's interesting because there are many, many kilos of memories ago now. It was actually quite interesting though because all those sports you mentioned, you usually for 6'4" plus.
Yeah.
You're not 6'4" plus.
Definitely not.
No, so it's the rowers are very tall.
Yeah.
And of course, you have midfielders now who are 6'4", playing AFL football and basketball obviously as well. So it's but you played the very tall sports.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
I know you're a very determined and very competitive person. Yeah, so I'd say very dogged from that perspective as well. Yeah.
I think the thing with rowing, I found it one of the most challenging sports ever because it's a real mental game.
Absolutely.
So a lot of the guys that were, I guess, physically suited to rowing didn't perform well if they didn't have that.
Very mentally strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess the challenge is, say, in football, the fitter you get, the easier the game is. Growing, the fitter you get, it doesn't get any easier. It's the same lactic acid build up and just mental struggle every time you get out on the boat. So, yeah, I think that was quite defining in some ways for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple of ex-gold medal Olympian rowers who live near me in Hugh.
Okay.
And they're still big, strong-looking boys.
Yeah.
Interestingly, they all took up cycling. Yeah, in their retirements. They're just 6'4" boys, big, strong boys riding around their push bikes around Hugh Boulevard.
Yeah.
They stand out, but they've actually kept their fitness. A lot of us swimmers tend to put on a lot of upper body weight when we stop swimming. Yeah, so it's or eat too much but stop swimming at the same time. Okay, so you've finished school. You are entrepreneurial by nature. I know that.
Yep.
Tell me about you've finished school now. What's next?
So I got forced by my grandparents and my mother to go to university. Literally forced.
I think we've been separated though. My mum was horrified when I dropped out of university and went overseas to live. Yeah.
So I spent one semester at university.
I spent 2 weeks.
And I said, no way am I doing this. No way. So I just had to break free. And I'm like, no. So I did that. I took a year off. And basically from there, I became the butt end of the joke at my family Christmases because they'd be like, Lucas, what's your profession this year?
So what were some of those professions?
So I was a security guard for a long time. I tried out an ownership of a cafe, which was very interesting. I ended up selling diamonds, traveling from country town to country town with a big box of $250,000 worth of diamonds that I had to take to the toilet with me because my boss at the time didn't want to get insurance. I've done that.
So he was happy to put your life at risk to not pay insurance.
Yes.
For your
quite possibly
wholesale $250,000 worth of diamonds.
And he deliberately, we had a company car, but I had it was like a beat up old Toyota Camry that was like, it didn't look like it was holding anything of any value, to put it that way. But it was reliable.
Yeah, okay.
So I dealt with that. I was a personal trainer. I worked at Bunnings, like whatever you could imagine, I've probably done it. And then, at the age...
But I've also not known you to be not successful at anything you put your hand to.
Well...
I mean, it's not, you have the Midas touch, but you work hard.
Definitely.
Yeah, so you're definitely a hard worker at everything you do.
Yeah, I think the thing for me, it's never been about the money. I do want to be successful because I'm very competitive by nature, but if I'm not passionate about it, and I didn't think that it was going to get me to where I want to go, then it doesn't matter what people think from the outside. I think I would just do it regardless.
Okay, so let's go back one step then at school. How were you academically at school?
I would say above average. But
did you get bored?
Very bored.
Yes, I was the same.
Yeah.
It's not that academically I couldn't do it. I was just bored. So I did what I had to do.
Yes.
But if it didn't grab it also came down to the teachers I found too. If I had a teacher that inspired me and was not just going through the motions and teaching, then, and I also think, if you're up at 4:30 swimming for 2 hours before you even go to school, you're tired. So if I've got somebody up there just going through the motion, my eyelids are starting to shut. But if I've got somebody up the front there actually inspiring me, it's your imagination is lit up. So, and that's what I needed. And so were you similar from that perspective?
Definitely. There's some teachers that were very inspiring and they, I guess they pushed me and challenged me in the ways that I needed, but also they were talking about things that interest me. I guess if I wasn't interested in a particular topic, I found it really hard because I found it pointless basically. So I was like, I don't want to be here. I guess I was very respectful from that perspective, so I'd still do everything.
Yeah, I wasn't disruptive in class, Yeah,
but I just didn't have an interest. And I guess that would show when I didn't have an interest, it would show, definitely. Yeah.
I remember when my father passed away and going through a belongings, I actually found all my school reports from preps all the way through to year 12.
Yeah.
And remember, I'm a couple of decades older than you, so I was when you had handwritten reports. But on my grade 4 school report, the teacher wrote, Mr. Hutchins, he wrote, I used to think Tony was so interested in the gaze he used to look at me when I would teach. But then I started to realise he was just asleep with his eyes open. He had zero interest in what was actually being said.
Love it.
And I thought back,
Yeah.
they're cool.
Yeah.
They're cool. Yeah, I had absolutely zero interest.
Well, it is what it is, right?
Absolutely. Well, it was just a little bit obvious if I was staring out the window rather than staring at him. So it was, just very different times back then as well. But I also think too that if you tick the 7 boxes, I probably would have been diagnosed with ADHD as well, and probably put on some tablet or something like that. I was just bored, So things I liked, I really liked, and I'd be passionate about and do it 100%. And things that I really wasn't interested in, I would just do because I had to.
Yeah, I guess I share that definitely, Tony. Like, I would say that if I really like something, I have to be careful because I really obsess over certain things that I'm passionate about. And then it can, earlier on in my career, I think it was detrimental to other things like health and, rest and relationships and things like that. But yeah.
Okay. So you're 23 years old.
23. Fun starts.
You've fallen into the real estate career.
Yep.
So tell us how that started.
So it's a bit of a story. I got my real estate license in a way that was legal but questionable, if you put it that way.
What inspired you to get your real estate license to start with?
I was trying another thing. It was Lucas. Every career was like 7 months, and it came around every Christmas time. So trying to figure out what I wanted to do. My friend had been in real estate for about 7 years, close friend, and he had just exited an office that he owned. It was backed by the family. And
so your friend was older than you, I'm assuming?
Actually, same age.
Okay.
But
so started young.
So yeah, his mum had sort of started this business originally, and he wanted to do his own thing now. So we basically decided we're going to start our own real estate office, as you do. And
23.
Yeah. And as young kids, you obviously make a lot of mistakes. So we picked Frankston. I don't know why. I think it was because it was close to the beach. And we decided to.
Valid reason.
We decided to sign a 5-year lease on a property that is not in a busy section of Frankston, as you do. And we started.
Okay.
And as a friend, it's like, I guess when you have a girlfriend and then you live with her and you find out that it's quite different to live with your girlfriend as opposed to just having a girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
I found out that my business partner, my friend, didn't really like the idea of work. So
it was a lot more fun on a Friday night than what he was Monday to Friday.
One of the funniest guys I think I've ever met.
Yeah.
Funny guy.
Yeah.
But didn't like work.
Okay. So not a great business partner.
No.
Yeah.
So we were in business for 6 months. And then just suddenly and really tragically, both of his parents got killed in a car accident. So I think from memory, it was actually Wangaratta. They were coming out of a turn onto the highway. They got hit by a semi-trailer and died instantly. So that was a really sad moment. And for my business partner...
So he was 23, 24 at this stage,
Yeah, really young. Had 3 other brothers that were quite a bit older, and they weren't very close at all. It was from the brothers, they're all very disjointed families. So, a lot of sort of fighting and arguing.
Okay.
Italian family.
Yeah.
And he inherited a lot of money. So, and I guess that was probably not a great thing for him because his background had always been just spending money, and his parents would, I guess, not really have a care. They would just keep on providing him money to do whatever he wanted to do. One of the things very funny, but that was his.
Lucas, it's interesting you say that because if my sons are listening to this and they know this, is that written into my testamentary trust, I plan on passing away. I have to at least be 105. Yeah, but if that wasn't to occur, and it was to occur young, if I was younger, my boys cannot touch the estate until they're 35. They still have to have a reason to get out of bed in the mornings.
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's they can at that stage they can then draw an income from it. That's it. So it's so from that perspective, I still want them to have an incentive to get up, go to work, and have a purpose.
That's great.
Yeah,
I think that's really important.
it is. Yeah, it's. I think when you just get given something, you never appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's the old story of the amount of people that win Powerball and 5 years later they're broke.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know how you're going to blow $80 million in 5 years, but it's so that's how wouldn't that be memorable? No, you wouldn't even know any of it.
Yeah.
But it happens so often.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he ended up inheriting the money, and he said, "Lucas, I'm gifting you the business." About a week after. And
So he gifted you a 5-year untenable lease.
yes.
Yeah, so he gifted you a liability.
Yep.
Wonderful.
So I had one staff member had no idea what I was doing. I think at the time our overheads were roughly $15,000 a month,
Okay.
and for me that was pretty scary. And
Did you say thank you and have a big gulp in your throat? So, because you went from being responsible for $7,500 a month to $15,000 a month.
Unfortunately, yeah. The weird thing was like he just never sort of reached out for help. So I don't know why, but it was just a very weird scenario. I don't know if things got held up from a financial perspective when his parents died, but yeah, we sort of ended terms not as like enemies, but we just weren't, we just didn't really speak.
He just went his own way and said,
Yeah, it was
Nice to know
really
you,
really
basically.
odd. So I went to the funeral. I did a lot of things, but I don't know. I think he was just damaged from that whole experience, which I couldn't imagine. But yeah, it was really odd how that ended. So yeah, I was thrown into running a real estate office with like zero knowledge. At the time, I had 14 rental properties. That is almost embarrassing to say, but I was running an Excel spreadsheet program to produce the invoice, then to give to the client, and then I was deducting the monies manually from my trust account and paying them out myself. So this is how like backward we were. Anyway, at the time, I'd made another contact with.
So earning your 7% on 14 rental properties in Frankston, you're not earning much money.
Definitely not. I think it was like
The subscription for the Excel spreadsheet probably was costing you more. So
the average rent, I think, was like $55 a month or making something like that. Yeah. So so the next step was I'd known this other gentleman who owned a real estate office in Cranbourne.
Yeah.
And he'd started his office after being, funnily enough, gifted the money as well from his wife. And he'd been running it for 18 months to 2 years, and he'd just been losing money at the business. And he was ready to give up. And I was wondering what I'm going to do.
Well, we always hear all these rumours that real estate agents will make a fortune when we see them driving around in their $150,000 leased Mercedes.
Yeah, that's not the case. I would say, just quickly, in Cranbourne, there was 100 agents when I was there, and probably only the top 10 were making amazing money, but the rest were making very average money, working very, very long hours with a very large lease.
Yeah.
In Cranbourne at the time, it was more like a Range Rover was their thing that they're doing now. So, yeah, it's very interesting. Business partner at the time, this gentleman I knew, he had that business that was just floundering. And we both came together, had a coffee, and said, "Hey, let's give it a go. Let's just join forces. Two's better than one."
You're both doing sales as well, I assume, not just rentals.
Yeah, it's both doing sales, but he was really, to be honest, focused on rentals a bit more. So
I suppose with rentals, it's a recurring revenue stream, at least, yeah.
Definitely. And then you typically get, in Cranbourne, potentially 5 to 7% of the rent roll sell each year. So once you do have a substantial rent roll, it's a great way to have a consistent business.
Yeah.
We got together. We said, okay, so very simple. Our businesses aren't worth anything, but I'll agree to give you 50% of the value of your rentals, and you do the same for me. We agreed on a multiplier, and he wanted this very, very specific long contract and all this stuff where it was really like, we're not playing with big businesses. But anyway, I went along.
What does you multiply for a 7 times?
No, so it's typically anywhere from 2 to 3.
Okay,
Can be, so average would probably be 2.75
Okay,
roughly.
yeah.
As you get closer to the city, probably more 3, maybe 3.5.
Okay.
So yeah, we ended up agreeing to do that, and this contract ended up taking 12 weeks. So I said, well, I'm moving from Frankston to Cranbourne, which is where.
So we're talking about your 14 rental properties times by 55 times by 2.5 times by 50%.
Yeah.
My maths is pretty quick in my head. That equals not a lot of money.
Yeah, it wasn't huge.
No, the legal bill would have been more. Your 50% of the legal bill would have been. Yeah.
So we were doing that, and I said, well, I've got this time. I've just got to bring on rentals, because if I bring on rentals, every rental I get, he's going to be paying for half of. So in the end, on the deal day, he ended up having a few less rentals. I think it was 78 rentals, and I went from 14 to 46 rentals. So he was actually shocked, because he was expecting to pay a different amount and getting this money, and he wasn't in the end. But the rest was history. So I guess when I had my back to the wall, I figured out that I performed pretty well.
Yeah.
And not knowing what I was doing, but I was passionate about it, and I believed in the service I was going to provide. So I was able to get that business. So we started our business. I moved to Cranbourne, and we were with a franchise called Remax Property Centre, which was costing us 10% in franchise fees for all our turnover. Yes, American, yeah. So very large in America, not large in Australia. I think they've still got a few offices in Queensland, but in Melbourne, I don't even have to have an office. And that was really a hindrance on our business. Like, people actually didn't like the name. So very early on in the piece.
For some reason, I just think, I do know the brand, but for some reason, I just think of a blender.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, so like in came out blender Remax. That's the picture that comes into my mind.
Yeah.
I do know the brand. It's red and blue.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
But it didn't do us any favours in Cranbourne, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So we ended up getting rid of that very early in the piece and going to another major franchise, which kind of helped, I believe, like definitely from a name perspective. And then the next 12 months, we ended up having, which I thought it was going to be a better time in real estate, but it was actually quite the opposite. So I was working 7 days, well over 100 hours a week. I wasn't taking on a wage. And at the time, that 12 months, we ended up having to tip in collectively another 100,000 into the business. So at 24, like, that was a lot of money for me. And when you're not even making a wage and then tipping in more money, like, most people would potentially say, I'm ready to quit.
You're still living at home at this stage?
No, I was living outside at home.
Okay, so you're renting as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
So, but I'm very stubborn.
So you're living on 2-minute noodles?
I don't think I was eating that much.
Don't you know you're a personal trainer as well? So
yeah. I was just living on protein shakes, I think.
Yeah.
For the most of the time. So yeah, we ended up spending the next 12 months losing money. And one night, it was like very late. It was like 7:30. I got a call from my original receptionist who was with me at the Frankston office. And we had a team of only 4 then. So it was 4 girls and the 2 directors. She gave me a call. She said, Lucas, I want to catch up tonight. And I said, yeah, it's just like, I need to catch up tonight. So we ended up catching up at McDonald's Cranbourne, South Gippsland Highway. And we're sitting in there, and she...
I was going to say, you just know this is not going to be good.
So she's sitting there, and she said, I'm going to leave. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, we're actually, all the girls are leaving. I said, what do you mean? She said, we're leaving tomorrow. And I said, okay, so what's happening? So she proceeded to then it was a massive release for her because obviously this is all being pent up. So she basically said that my business partner had been verbally abusing them for the whole time. And this was like a complete shock to me because as a sales agent, I was out 99% of the time. But every time I'd be in the office, it never been an issue. So what had happened was there was incidences where like there was a metal ruler thrown in the direction of one of our staff members. Being a small office, we had to cover for lunch for the girls. So the receptionist would have to cover. One day it had been 2 o'clock, so receptionists haven't had lunch, and she asked. She said, "Oh, look," to my director, the other co-director, can I go on lunch? His response was, "You're fat anyway. You don't need to have lunch." So I was taken aback by this whole situation, and I said, "Look, if you can,
I know your personality and what you're like as a man. I think you're being very polite and very protective as a person.
Yeah, I probably said a few other things, but
I'm sure you did.
it's probably not.
Yeah.
It's conversation.
I did warn you we don't edit, so it's but yeah, I reckon that would have been very, very tough for you to hear all that.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was.
Because you would have been very protective of them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think anyone who's vulnerable.
It sounds like you were absolutely shocked by it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone who's vulnerable or to someone else, I'm protective of only just by nature.
Yeah.
So yeah, effectively, she decided to give me an account of everything that's happened to her and the staff in the last. It was only a month. In the morning, I had like 2 A4 sheets of paper of incidents that had occurred just in that last 1 to 2 month period. And yeah, some of the things on there were pretty serious. Not to mention the things that I thought were serious anyway, but they were quite serious. So what I did was I ended up contacting our franchise, and they said, if you don't sort this out now, we're releasing you. We're going to cut you straight away. And just coincidentally,
just very damaging reputational damage to them.
Yeah, very serious. So they ended up having a contact which I just coincidentally met at one of our events. It was in HR, and this lady wasn't big in stature, but she used to negotiate with unions, so she was
as tough as nails.
Pretty tough woman.
Yeah.
So, unbeknownst to me that this was going to happen as quickly, the franchise reached out and they said, "We're coming to meet you tomorrow night. There's a complaint being delivered, and we need to give you something straight away." So, after work hours, my business partner and I and his HR lady into our little tiny office, which was a tiny little office that had like just 4 tables, so it was very close quarters, you could say. And for the first time ever, I saw my business partner behave, I guess, in a way that was aligned with what I'd seen on a piece of paper.
You've never witnessed that ever?
No, not at all. It was I don't know. I don't even know to describe what I was feeling, but this lady.
So this is the way he was speaking to her.
Yes. So the complaint was risen. He was very defensive, but he was very aggressive, and he started becoming extremely aggressive. But
do you think that's how he might have just been with women in general?
I think so. I think every time we ever had to make a major financial decision because of the fact that his wife had given him the money, he couldn't make the decision. So we would sit in a meeting and have a decision about finances. He would then have to ask her first before we could make a decision. So I think there was this, underlying resentment for some reason towards women, and he wanted to, I guess, dominate women in a way, in everyday life.
Didn't like being told.
Yeah, definitely. So, but by the end of it, this HR lady, she ended up going through the account that we'd given her, line by line, word by word, and you could just see by the halfway through the meeting, he was defeated, embarrassed, and just, was asking if he could speak. It was like, it was unbelievable. I didn't say anything. I was just listening. So then she then proceeded to ask, she said to my co-director at the time, what do you want to do? And he said, look, I'm willing to work on my behaviour, but I can see that, you're going to cut us out of the deal and my staff are probably going to leave. And then she asked, Lucas, what do you want to do? And I said, look, I'm really disgusted by this behaviour. And for me, that was just the line in the sand. And I said, look, either I'm leaving or you're leaving.
I love the fact that you made it well aware your boundaries have been crossed.
Yeah.
And it's not a warning that your boundaries have been crossed. It's just you crossed them, you're not getting a second chance.
Yeah.
But your boundaries were crossed because of the way he treated other people that worked with you. Not because, so they were your boundaries based around respect. So it's a case of, I don't care if you're my business partner, that's not going to occur. You're no longer my business partner.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so it was a pivotal moment in our business then. So believe it or not, Tony, that night we'd agreed that I was going to buy the co-director out of the business, and he actually never returned to the premises after that meeting that night. Doesn't seem unbelievable that he packed everything up that he had that night, put it in the car, left. Obviously, the paperwork and all that, left, and that was it. He literally never came back. Then that following month, the girl that gave me the account, she had her record month, brought on 10 rentals. I had a record month in sales, followed by the next month breaking the last month's record, followed by the next month, and we had the best year we've ever had. And basically the rest is history. But the silver lining was he had so many losses for the first 2 years of business, plus then all the losses we had in the third year of business. So that next 12 months of all his success and profit was tax-free. So it was good. It was good. It was good. Yeah.
So it's nice when you can offset gains against previous year's losses.
Yeah. So that was my experience, and the real estate business I ended up selling actually just last year.
But isn't it interesting though how you change the persona? There's that saying, a change only as strong as its weakest link. And he was obviously a weak link without you knowing it.
Yeah.
He's no longer there. There's this dark cloud that has just been lifted from the entire office. The 4 girls, all of a sudden, it's just like they're feeling better about themselves. Everyone's feeling better about themselves. They all walk in not wondering what's he going to throw at us, either verbally or physically today. They're going there with this, rather than a sense of anticipation of abuse, they're going there for a sense of anticipation of success.
Yeah.
And how all of a sudden you have a record year.
Yeah, you've picked up on that perfectly, Tony. And I think, change your environment, change your future. That's why
you didn't have to change your surroundings. You
just
have to change the person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes. Like, there's so many people with so much potential, but if they're, surrounded by the wrong people, they're not going to go anywhere. You perfectly identify that.
Yeah. And it is true, you can actually, sometimes a new colleague, a new co-worker can come and work in, they can end up being so disruptive. And you just have to, sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and say, I'm sorry. So it's, you have to manage that process or manage them out, because you can see potential, but you can also see the disruption that is causing a really cohesive office as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think that takes a strong leader in any business that needs to prioritize morals, boundaries, keep the vision intact.
Yeah.
Beyond financial benefit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. We, at a club, actually, we've engaged a group called Merit Horizons who do our people and culture and HR, and they've been brilliant. Really, really brilliant for us. Brilliant for me, actually. Really helped me. I struggled last year after me. So they've actually really been brilliant for me, getting me back to doing what I love to do.
That's good. I think I've heard a few stories.
Yeah, they're all positive in case you're listening to this, ladies. So Lucas can share them with you. They're all positive. But I think one of the real attributes is, as an example, we're speaking to a gent at the moment about potentially him joining up with us. And one of the things we spoke to him about yesterday is he will have to meet with them. We believe he shares all the same values and he'll fit in really well in the culture, etc. But he's actually going to have to meet with them and go through that cultural audit with them as well.
Yeah.
So this is not a Tony decision anymore. This is not that sounds good, you're a really great guy, tick the box type of thing. He's now going to have to go through that process as well. And go through that process whilst I'm overseas. And if they say no, then that's what the answer is. That's what I have to live with as well. Okay. And they made a call recently that when they first joined, that I didn't agree with. They were right. And I was wrong. And I wish I had listened to them 2 months earlier than I did. So it was, but these are the things where you have to trust the judgment of people who are experts in that field as well.
Yeah. I think we're always learning and growing there, so we can always adapt and change.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, because I like to think, and you're a very successful business owner as well, but you like to think of yourself as, the glass half full. We're very optimistic and, we're both very hard workers and very competitive and very goal driven. I need a purpose to get out of bed every morning.
Yeah.
And, I always set the alarm for 5 and I'm always awake at like 4:30. So if I've got a big alarm. So it's, but it's you have that focus, you have that desire, you have everything you actually want to do and drive forward. But as a result of that, sometimes you can overlook those red flags. Like, with your ex-business partner, there might have been some red flags there, but because no one else was really saying them, you didn't really see them.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, so it's, or you didn't really notice them because no one else was actually saying anything about them to you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. So it's, because they could have been there, I don't know. So, I mean, I was obviously wasn't
They probably were in hindsight,
Yeah.
but they're sort of little, mannerisms and things that
Yeah,
you probably
that's right.
wouldn't have picked up on because you wouldn't have known better otherwise.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's correct. So it's so let's go forward. Over 15 years, you built an unbelievably successful real estate business.
Yeah, it's been a great journey. And one of my other absolute passions, is investing, and I guess you could call capital allocation is my thing.
But you're able to do all that because of this unbelievably successful real estate business that you built as well.
That's right, yeah.
That first year without the dark cloud in that business, where it went from potentially the whole thing being decimated to building an unbelievable business to, everything else that you've actually now done with this investing in capital allocation, everything else is still on the back of all your hard work and all your success.
Yeah, very true. No, it's been great for me. And yeah, it's basically allowed me to have a lifestyle and, head towards my goal and my future that I'm really passionate about. Real estate, as I said, it's been great, but it was never my end game. So my end game, which I haven't shared publicly, but I don't know, I'm a kind of all or nothing guy, so I kind of have to share what my vision is because I feel like it's time. But
you've shared it with me.
I have, but just not.
And I'm proud to be part of the journey with you.
So I guess a deep desire of mine is I've spent a lot of time with very, I guess, financially challenged individuals. Like in Cranbourne, there was a lot of people struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, or they're on benefits. We would probably see 30% of our listings due to divorce, and that was particularly due to financial struggle. So parents are fighting, then obviously the kids, they suffer the most because, they're not receiving the love and the care and the inspiration that they probably would get if the parents weren't trying to just keep their heads above water. Then on the flip side now, in my new business, I've spent time with, a number of billionaires, and I see, some of their desires and things that they want to do and achieve. But what I realized is a lot of these kids that are unfortunate in these particular environments, they're actually just as intelligent. They've got just as much drive. They've got just as much aggression that they could channel into doing something. But
if it was channeled in the right way,
exactly,
it can be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's so powerful.
And I think that's one of the keys between you and I. If we were let to go out there and go feral, we would have been feral. But we were fostered in a good way,
Yeah.
and as a result, have that it became passion rather than aggression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've seen that with a lot of kids, and I know through my own experience, some of my most successful investments have only been due to exposure. So because I was exposed to those particular investments, because I saw that other people were having success doing this or doing that, that was my path. Then I could harbour all my energy and my passion and go down that path. But most of these kids, they're not exposed to anything. And I think the education system is really failing them. And I don't know if that's by design. I'm not going to probably get too involved with my opinion on that. But they're not taught about the fundamental things that you need to live a successful and full life. And for me, that's not just financial, it's health, it's relationships. So my vision is I basically want to purchase a large property, so roughly a couple of thousand acres, and I want to start my own school, which would be more potentially like a boarding school.
Mm.
Where
I do know you do like land because you currently live on 60 acres with a few cows.
Yeah, I do like
and with your beautiful Italian wife, Monica.
Yeah,
so
she actually loves the lifestyle better than me now. So
is that right?
Yeah. So
Monica, Lucas has already told me about your wonderful cooking, which I'm looking forward to enjoying.
Yeah.
When I get back from overseas, or when you're all back as well.
She's very good cook. Yeah. So the idea is to start my own school, but that's more sort of where kids will be taught about life. So they'll be taught financially, they'll be taught how to look after their health, they'll be taught about how to eat good food, and basically all the things that encompass a full life. But then also what I would like to do from that is when they, when they end up finishing school, let's say year 12, you could say, then if any of them have any ideas that are palatable that really work, then I would like to have a program where we can basically incubate these business ideas and help them start their passion and their dream. Because if I can teach 200 kids that are good people how to, channel their energy and do good for the world, then they're going to end up helping thousands of people. Whereas myself, I can only help so many people. But by teaching these kids how to be, leaders and good people and, exposing them to the things that they're passionate about, they'll be able to flourish and basically help thousands of people. Not only that, I really want to have sort of an organic side to the farm. So I want to bring back whole foods and organic food because I think that's a huge issue that stems from what we're eating and what we're putting into our bodies. Even you think, I don't know if I should say this, but I will. But
I'm not editing it out, mate. So go for it. So yep.
I know a strawberry farmer, and I'm not going to say how big or small he is, but he provides strawberries. He will not eat those strawberries. So if that doesn't tell him something about... I
have a friend of mine who supplies, well, old friend, but her father supplies all the cabbages and that for supermarkets, and his family's not allowed to eat that.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I think that's one of the biggest issues as well. And
Well, my fridge, which never has much in it, so it's but anything when I like to think I'm actually quite a good cook.
yeah,
But it's everything is free range, grass fed, organic. There's even if blueberries, they have to be organic. I'm not going to be putting anything crap into my body
yeah,
that I don't have to. As you know,
I think
so
that's great.
I'm going out for lunch today, so I don't know what they're cooking and stuff like that. But it's I actually go to and I'll name them because it's a good story. But I go to Il Solito Posto in just off Collins Street quite often for lunch. Kelly's always organising that for me. So it's so I did take her there because they got grumpy at me. How come we never get to go social? That's a parent Lauren there not so long ago. But it's interesting. It's one of the Italian restaurants you go to, and you walk out, and you're not bloated after eating their pasta. They import their pasta from Italy. It's the Italian. You know how you go to Italy, you're getting pasta all day, and you just don't feel bloated.
I can definitely attest to that because I was eating pizza and pasta every single day.
It's not full of processed. I mean, even if you go down to Brunetti's and you have one of the Italian donuts that they make themselves, it's not like these Krispy Kremes that you can stick on the shelf for 3 years. It still tastes crap, but it's still fresh. Whereas these ones, within 4 hours, they're starting to go because they're not full of all the preservatives and crap and things like that. So it's so when you talk about that organic lifestyle, I'm a bigger fella, so if I want to live to 105, I have to at least stay around that 90 kilo mark. And so anything that I put into my body has to be as good as possible, not processed. And because my father, who's a non-smoker, non-drinker his whole life, had a stroke at 62 and a heart attack at 64, triple bypass surgery, 3 more heart attacks in the last 6 years of his life, Alzheimer's. And he led a fairly healthy life, except for his food intake. And he kept all his stress inside, never expressed it. And so these are the things where you talk about that lifestyle. And I think, so for me, meditation is vitally important. And I know these are things that we've spoken about that you do at your school. But let's go back to that just in a moment, because I said when we were talking about this is something that my youngest son would have thrived in, absolutely thrived in. When I had my couple of acres in Dundale, this is a kid who best friend growing up was the local fox that lived on our land. Who she was happy. She would eat out. She wouldn't go near anyone else. She would feed everyone, but she was happy to be fed by him. So that we had the magpies that loved him would swoop us. So it was so he was just this one with nature the whole time. The normal academic in Carey, which was a magnificent school, don't get me wrong, but that was the normal academic curriculum, was not suited for him. That was not the way he was going to learn and thrive. So it was unbelievable school. Loved Carey. He enjoyed Carey for his primary school.
Yeah.
But I had to take him out in the end because it was just he was struggling there academically and he wasn't feeling good about himself.
Probably a great move though.
Yeah, it was the best move for him.
Yeah.
It wasn't about saving money or anything like that. It was actually the best move for him of actually taking him out of there. And so he's that type of kid who would have thrived in that environment. And we were speaking about people like Bernie Shakeshaft, who has Backtrack Boys in Armidale, New South Wales, and all the young Indigenous kids, basically, where the local cops will grab them and say, "Guys, bring you down here. You muck up again, you're going to juvenile detention.
Yeah.
This is your chance." And these kids end up learning on the land, still being educated. So still learning your basics to be able to get by, but end up having jobs, owning their own businesses, getting married, having successful marriages, avoiding incarceration, avoiding drugs and alcohol. My friend Nova Paris, amazing human being. But Nova speaks about, she told me the story of the Aboriginal mothers, because I asked a question once. I was up in Kununurra, and I said, why are, it's Wednesday afternoon, why are all the kids out in the streets? And she said, well, the problem is that they go to school Fridays because that's when there's free lunch. But they don't have to attend school.
Right.
Okay. But then is it that the case of the normal Western school curriculum lets them down? But also she spoke about not in every community, obviously, but in some, she spoke about the fear of what the mothers have. And the fear of the mothers is it's safer for their children to be out roaming the streets at night than at home with an alcoholic neighbour, uncle, stepfather, boyfriend, etc. So it's safer for the kids to be out. And then, of course, during the day, they're tired.
Yeah.
Because they're out all night. So it's safer for them to be out all night roaming the streets and during the day. So from that perspective, it's that vicious cycle that just perpetrates itself all the way through. And then she says, so the parable that she told, and I thought it was really well, the story, it just puts a visual. She said, think of the mother taking their child down to the river. And if you get across to the river to the other side, your child is safe and will thrive in life. But in the river, there's 2 crocodiles, and those crocodiles are alcohol and drugs. And the river is life, and you want them to be able to get across the river safely and avoid those 2 crocodiles. That's the mother's dilemma. Do you put them into the river, or do you keep them back here where it's unsafe? And that's the mother's dilemma. And I was also, so these are the things where what you're doing is you're saying, putting this child into the normal Western academic curriculum is not, their child is just not going to thrive.
Yeah.
The child is not going, in actual fact, if anything, it's going to set the child back. Still teaching them, but teaching them, me learning Pythagoras theory was never going to help me in my financial planning career.
Yeah.
But math is something I'm actually really good at. I actually get grumpy at all the kids in here using calculators. So you can work that out in your head. So it's, I don't think I've had a go at you yet, have I, Bella, on calculators? No, but Regina says, I've not touched it. Work that out in your head. But it's, so these are the things where it's learning things that are life skills that I think are really, really vitally important. But that's actually what you're talking about as well. And you have a look at, there's so many of these kids that if they are given the opportunity, and if you have a look at some of the private schools that these parents obviously can't afford to send their kids to, where they have, for example, John Graham at Timbertop or Lauriston, where in year 9, the kids can go and spend a year living out in the country campus.
Yeah.
Away from home.
Yeah.
Experiences that these kids just thrive and never forget. They're away from home, away from their parents. They're living on the land, and they're still in the normal curriculum. But all these kids and adults today that have done that, they still talk about year 9 as the greatest year of their life at school. I suppose that's the type of thing that you're talking about. In 2,000 acres, there's a lot of land too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely. I think it's definitely a dream and a vision, and I think that it can change the world. But for me, it's something that I found giving has been the most rewarding things in my life.
Mm.
So I get the greatest kick out of, I guess, helping someone progress wherever they want to go. If it's could be a completely different direction that I'm going in, but if I can help someone progress, that's a gift that they give back to me that they probably don't even know.
It's actually something else to add to that. Something my father told me about. So, I've shared the story, and the listeners have heard this a long time, and you know this as well. But both my parents were orphans, and when Dad spoke about the opportunities that he was provided, according to Dad, he had good experiences in the orphanage, which thankfully so. The interesting part, though, was when I was talking about our own charitable giving program and what we do. We focus on giving underprivileged children opportunities. predominantly. So we fully fund the school in Tanzania, and there's a whole range of things that we actually do. We have 604 students now. But one of the things that really got me thinking about what we do and why we do it was, and I think about my own life. My parents statistically should have been shit parents. So they grew up without any parental control. They grew up with no parental role models. So they should have realistically been really crap parents. So they, and from that perspective, they came here, no different than your family and no different than Bella's family and things like that. They came here as migrants with nothing and worked hard. And were semi-successful, very successful in life, and financially just semi-successful. 2 years after coming here, bought a quarter-acre block in Moonee Ponds and the house, and it's with the garage, which seemed to be bigger than the house, which there seemed to be every quarter-acre block around. So it's but I think the focus for them was always in our household. Their children, myself and my sister Michelle, we were going to have an education. What we did with that education was up to us, but we were at least going to have that education, that opportunity that they didn't necessarily have. And then it was up to, but Dad always said, that's breaking the cycle. That was what that actually did, was you break the cycle, and that actually can break the cycle for further 10 generations.
Yeah.
So that child that goes to the school that you're going to develop and who could have ended up feral, on the news, in jail, on the dole, sitting on the couch eating Doritos, playing video games, so it's, so it's, young teenage male, so it's, from that perspective, it's, just thinking, why bother? From that perspective, all of a sudden has a passion, a goal, somebody who's believed in them and goes out there and pursues life, and ends up on a completely different trajectory of what they were actually going to go on. It's not just that child becoming an adult's life that has been changed. It's potentially the next 10 generations. The next 10 generations can actually add up to another 1,000 people by you changing one person's life.
There you go. I didn't think of it that way.
So this is the mathematician in me, mate. So it has nothing to do with high interest theory, by the way. So
I like what you touched on as well, Tony, with the fact that it's the belief, because a lot of these kids, they don't feel like they've got a backer or someone who believes in them, and I think that alone is so powerful. So having someone that's actively, genuinely saying, "I believe in you," go, lean into what you're passionate about. That's really powerful. And often that's all they need.
Absolutely.
That one person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with you, Lucas. So, Lucas, thank you for coming in and being my guest today. I know when we first spoke about it, I said, mate, it's just a chat between friends. We're just going to have a microphone going out to 4,500 people. I really appreciate you coming in today. And I'm looking forward to being part of that journey with the school over the next, I've still got 49 years left in me, so I'll be there for quite some time with you along the journey as well.
No, thank you, Tony. Really appreciate it today.
Great having you.
It's been great. Thank you.
The Kofkin Bond podcast is a product from Kofkin Bond and Company, which we are an authorized representative of Count Financial. All information in this podcast is for education and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional, finance, legal, or tax advice. The hosts of the Kofkin Bond podcast are not aware of your personal financial circumstances. Before making any financial decision, you should read the product disclosure statement and, if necessary, consult a licensed financial professional. Do not take financial advice from the podcast. For more information, head to the disclaimer page on the Kofkin Bond website, or you can find resources on the ASIC website and find a registered financial professional near you. In the spirit of reconciliation, Kofkin Bond & Co. and the hosts of the Kofkin Bond podcast acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today.